Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to be here with you today. And I have to tell you, I've been looking forward to this webinar for months. In these crazy times of COVID-19, it's important that we stay focused on the things that we can grow from. We don't need to let 2020 really kind of dictate where our professional and personal development come from. And in these crazy times of pandemic, we have to continue our learning for both our personal and professional development. Today, I'm going to give you the finer points of advancing your emotional intelligence. This is one of those skills that's essential for your development. And let's go ahead and get started, man, because I think that there's a lot that we have to cover. And if you're able to, please take notes and prepare for questions. And I'm also going to give you my contact information at the end if you want to get in touch with me if you have questions after the webinar. But when it comes to your happiness and your success in your life, emotional intelligence really is what matters just as much, if not more, than your intellectual ability. If you aspire to be a leader or in a leadership role, then the emotional element of being a leader is something that you have to consider. When you have a great understanding of your emotions, it's going to help you with the ability to coach your teams, to manage stress, to deliver feedback, and really collaborate with others, which is essential when you become in that leadership, you become a part of that leadership team and in that leadership role. Emotional intelligence is the ability for you to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as recognize and influence the emotions of the people that are around you. And over the years, emotional intelligence has emerged into a must-have skill. It's one of those things that, in fact, according to Career Builder, I was just reading, 71% of employers that are going through the hiring process say that they value emotional intelligence over intellectual ability. Because we can always teach people, right? But we can't teach them how to feel. We can't teach them how to understand their emotions. Really, employees that have a high degree of emotional intelligence are more likely to stay calm under pressure. They're able to work and resolve conflict efficiently. And if you think about it, they can respond to their coworkers with empathy. And maybe you can think about who those people are. So if we think about the components of emotional intelligence, so there's a paragraph that I like to read that kind of sums up all these components of emotional intelligence. And I'm going to read it to you, then I'm going to break it down. But emotional intelligence gives you the ability to recognize your emotions and reactions, manage, control, and adapt your emotions, moods, reactions, and responses, harness your emotions to motivate ourselves and to take appropriate actions, commit to follow through, and work towards achievement of your goals. Discern the feelings of others and understand their emotions, and use that understanding to relate to others more efficiently. Build more relationships, relate to others in social structures, lead, negotiate conflict, and work as part of a team. And when we think about what emotional intelligence is and what it defines as, that paragraph really kind of gives it to us, right? In the first sentence, emotional intelligence gives you the ability to recognize your own emotions and reactions. That's your self-awareness. Then you're able to manage, control, adapt your emotions, mood, reactions, and responses. Self-regulation. Harness your emotions to motivate yourselves with appropriate action, commit to follow through, and work towards achievement of your goals. That's motivation. Then you're able to discern the feelings of others, understand their emotions, and use that understanding to help relate to people more effectively. And that's empathy. And then being able to build relationships and relate to others in social situations, be able to lead them, negotiate conflict, and work as part of a team is your social skills. And when we think about emotional intelligence, we want to be able to move ourselves in this process of growing emotionally, but all these things we're going to need to be able to take in a time. We're not going to be able to master all these skills all at once. And when we talk about self-awareness as number one, that's going to be the queen of emotional intelligence. If emotional intelligence is king, self-awareness is going to be the queen. I remember when I was younger in my career, there always seemed to be leaders that were around me that were really kind of on an even keel. No matter what was going on in the organization, I would think that this was going to be so bad for the organization. They were just cool. They were calm. They were collected. They stayed on an even keel, and nothing that happened seemed to upset them. And, this kind of served them really well. I expected them to get fired up and upset, but they didn't. But on the other hand, at the same time in my career, I was, my emotions were a powder keg. And at any given moment, boom, there was just an emotional outburst. I'd yell, I'd get mad, I'd even want to fight with people. And truly, the immaturity of who I was as a young worker, as a young leader, was really affecting my ability to get the job done. And the differences in these styles had a lot to do with my lack of emotional intelligence. And my leaders' part, they were able to practice a high degree of emotional intelligence. And if we look at some of the characteristics here of high versus low emotional intelligence, I'm not going to read them to you, just kind of check them out. I mean, the whole concept of emotional intelligence is wrapped around the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, and when that happens, you have smoother sailing towards your ultimate success. And, it seems like it's such an easy thing to say, but there's nothing harder that you're going to undertake than trying to now get your emotional intelligence into whack. And if we look at some of the behaviors of high versus low emotional intelligence, I got to tell you, this is the low side. And I probably had every single one of these behaviors sometime in my career until I learned the importance of emotional intelligence. I would attack people. I would command them to do things. I would order them to do things. Man, I would criticize people, and I was great at carrying grudges and being unforgiving. And I got to tell you, when I had the ability to understand what was happening, and as we get into self-awareness, it really became it really came down to the fact that I was insecure. And because I was insecure as a worker, because I was insecure as a leader, it made me defensive. And the best way that I was able to respond to that was by being aggressive, by being a bully. People would say that, you're a bully, and I would get so upset with it. I ain't a bully. And then I would get mad, and then I would want to fight and argue with people. But this is the thing that we've got to be able to think about now. So if we think about the behaviors of somebody with a high degree of emotional intelligence, I mean, here they are. They're emotionally resilient. They're interested in other people's feelings. They don't internalize that failure. When we think about mistakes and failure, this is one of the things that really kind of get to us. We're very, very tough on ourselves when it comes to the mistakes that we make. I want you to remember this equation. And if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. Mistakes plus reflection equal wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with you today because I'm sharing my mistakes and reflection and the wisdom that I've developed. We go back to the previous slide of all those, behaviors of the poor leader with low emotional intelligence. That was me. And now I'm trying to give you the other side, the other flip of the coin, that I've made the mistakes. I've been able to reflect on those mistakes, and I'm sharing that wisdom with you. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our first component, and that's going to be self-awareness. I got to tell you, in my opinion, self-awareness is the most important attribute that you can develop personally and professionally. And if you're a leader, even more so. Self-awareness is the capacity to tune into your own emotions. It allows you to know what you're feeling, but more importantly, why you're feeling it. Once you're able to develop an understanding, you also have the ability to determine how those feelings hurt what you're trying to communicate or what you're trying to accomplish, or help what you're trying to communicate or what you're trying to accomplish. Like it says on the screen, self-awareness is the ability to understand your emotions. I mean, we've all been in those situations where we've gotten hot under the collar. We've all been in those situations where somebody has lashed out at us. But why is that happening? Have you ever said to yourself, I wonder why I got upset? I wonder why that made me mad. I wonder why I yelled at that person. How those feelings help and hurt you to try to do the things that you do. When you have a high degree of emotional self-awareness, it allows you to have more of an understanding of your strengths. It allows you to understand your limitations. It allows you to understand your weaknesses. How about how your weaknesses affect your strengths? You may be saying, you know what, I'm great at communication, but if you blow up at people, it makes no difference how great at communication you are, because no one's going to want to follow you. No one's going to want to be around you. No one's going to want to seek your counsel. And now what you've got to be able to understand is, if you're great at these things, how do these weaknesses affect those strengths? And having strong self-awareness allows you to be strong enough to know when it's time to ask for help. There's a lot of times where we just kind of sit back and we let ourselves feel the emotion of not knowing or not understanding. But knowing that we can ask for help, and more importantly, knowing that it's okay to ask for help, gives us that high degree of self-awareness. And having strong self-awareness gives you the clarity on your values. It outlines your direction. It helps support your vision, and it feeds your sense of purpose. Now, when we can be more decisive, focused, and ensuring that our vision of success becomes a reality, it's because we truly understand why we're heading in this direction. Have you ever made decisions you're just like, I wonder why I made that decision? It's because, that's coming from the subconscious to say, well, I think this is what we need to do. But when you have good reflection, when you have good self-awareness, this is the realization that you understand why you're going. And when you have this purpose, and I got to tell you, the realization is that self-awareness is a learned skill. And until we understand our own self-awareness, let's be honest, it's a lot easier to look outwardly and point fingers and blame other people than look inwardly and take responsibility. But when you have the strength to be self-aware, you're going to notice how much clearer things around you will become. Yeah, I got to tell you, I just love emotional intelligence. And every moment is the opportunity for you to practice your own self-awareness. Have you got that person that pushes your buttons? Or do you have the power to push other people's buttons, and you know that the things you say or the things that you're going to do are just going to get under their skin? Or somebody that you know when they're coming, you just can't stand to be around them because they know that they're going to make you angry? Why is that happening? Sit back and really kind of think about why you allow that to happen. Why is this person getting under your skin? Be conscious of the situation and the events in your life. Be conscious of the people that have the ability to kind of, push your buttons. And when you feel frustrated, find that root cause. Every moment is an opportunity to practice self-awareness. And this is one of the biggest keys to acknowledge your own weaknesses. Because there's a lot of times that, self-awareness and people who react to having poor self-awareness, it might be a self-confidence issue. It might be a self-esteem problem. And if we're able to understand the why of we react the way we do, or the why that we have the feelings that we do, this is going to give us the opportunity to understand and change that behavior. And I've said it before, and I'm going to say it multiple times throughout this webinar. If you have the ability to develop and recognize an understanding of your own emotions, then beyond just recognizing your emotions, you're able to figure out why you have those emotions and determine the best way to keep them from, consuming you. And when we think about this from developing your self-awareness, a couple of things that we need to do here is, and if you're taking notes, write this down, acknowledge your weaknesses. It's okay to say that we have weaknesses. We want to be able to turn those weaknesses or challenges into strengths. Practice feeling your emotions. And when you feel them, give them an explanation as to why you're feeling the way that you do. And this may take you, a little bit of time. And use the practice, and I got this from Dean Graziosi, who says, take it 7 deep. Why am I getting upset? Well, I'm getting upset because this person disrespects me. Well, why are you getting upset? Because this person disrespects you. And just take it down 7 deep and really kind of get to the core of what that is and be honest with yourself, because I think that this is going to be important. Be conscious of situations and your events, as it says there. And if you're frustrated, try to pinpoint the root cause of why that's happening. And then really, you're going to have to be able to practice self-discipline, and that's going to be really important as well. So let's go ahead and talk about, as we move into our next slide, this is really the next step of self-regulation. And, we're hanging out, we're going through our day, and then all of a sudden someone is going to just make you angry, and you've got to be able to deal with that. And I went ahead and took this from the original Incredible Hulk. I want to go ahead and hit this.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Right? When we get angry, there's just that change, right? There's that metamorphosis that just kind of makes us get upset. And we have that trigger. Someone's pushing our buttons, and then we see something or we experience something, and then biology takes over. And I got to tell you, biology is a big thing, right? As you now become angry, your body's muscles become tense. Inside your brain, those neurotransmitters, they're playing around with those chemicals and they're releasing the catecholamines. And now all of a sudden, you're experiencing that burst of energy that could last for several minutes. And this burst of energy is behind the common angry desire to take immediate protective action. And we're going to talk about this from a physiology standpoint here in a minute, but at the same time, our heart rate increases and our blood pressure rises and the rate of breathing increases, right? And now your face may flush and blood enters, your limbs and your extremities in preparation for physical action. And your attention now narrows and you become locked on the target of your anger. And then soon you pay attention to nothing else, right? I mean, have you ever tried to move people out of a tense situation and they're just kind of focused in on that? I mean, they're just kind of ready to attack. And then your brain releases more neurotransmitters and hormones. Among them, it's going to be adrenaline and it's going to be noradrenaline are released, which trigger a lasting state of arousal. And now you're ready to fight. Now you're ready to yell. Now you're ready to get up into somebody's face. But why does this happen? And what if I tell you, you have no choice but to feel your emotion first? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce to you the limbic system. And in the limbic system, this is the little thing that causes all the problem right here. This is the fight or flight mechanism, right? So all of a sudden, we feel this emotion. Everything that we do, everything that we see, everything that we touch creates an electric impulse. And that electric impulse moves up through our spine. And then it goes to our limbic system. This is our fight or flight response. We have no choice but to feel the emotion first. And all the things that I just talked about increasing your blood pressure, increasing your breathing, increasing your heart rate, getting locked onto the target, is all happening here in the limbic system. And then that feeling, that emotion goes to your frontal lobe, where you're able to now make reason of what you've just felt. But you feel the emotion first. And once you make reason of it, it doesn't make your emotion go away. You're still angry. You're still upset. You're still sad. You're still fearful. But now you've got to be able to make sense of that and be able to react differently. But we still got the emotion. We still got the adrenaline. And this happens in a split second. It happens way faster than it does to put the arrows on the screen. So when you think about this from the standpoint of your emotions and feeling them, you're going to feel the emotion. But ladies and gentlemen, you've got to be able to take that pause and you've got to be able to let the rationale get to that frontal lobe. Self-regulation involves taking the pause between your feelings and the actions and then taking the time to think about those things and then make plans to kind of help, wait patiently and kind of help them go away. Until you develop this discipline, people always struggle with these behaviors. Okay, now with all that said, you feel it? Can you feel the emotion? Now, I'm glad no one's going to walk in here because, I may have to jump on them because I'm so fired up. All that norepinephrine, that adrenaline is just coming. But anyway, so now this goes towards the fact of a person that's getting upset and with poor self-regulation skills. And a lot of times it's happening because of poor self-confidence or poor self-esteem. I kind of mentioned that. But why? So think about it. If you have poor self-confidence or if you don't think well of yourself and someone kind of points a finger at you and says, nice haircut, or are you gaining any weight? Now, all of a sudden, that self-confidence, that lack of self-confidence issue comes out, and it's going to give us make us upset. It's going to give us the emotions. It's going to give us the impulses, and we've got to be able to manage those things. The lack of self-confidence, the lack of self-esteem, this relates to trouble in handling these stressful situations. And again, through self-awareness, it's going to give you the opportunity to say, you know what? I need to strengthen my self-confidence. I need to be able to strengthen my self-awareness. If people point a finger and laugh, big deal. It's okay. What does it really mean? But you got to be comfortable with yourself. And that's what's really important. When you think about self-regulation, you've got to stay calm under pressure and recover quickly from being upset. When you're in a leadership role, people are going to push your buttons and you've got to be able to kind of, put those into perspectives. And you know how to balance your feelings for the good of yourself and others. People are always watching you. And it's important that you're able to handle those situations so you can set the right conditions that when they're in the same situations that you've now been a positive role model to them. One of the things that I think is important when it comes to self-regulation is adaptability. Things are going to happen and changes are going to happen, and you need to be able to make certain that you are staying that you're prepared for the change. I mean, change is just part of the business, man. That's just the way it's going to be. But again, when you have that feeling of being in charge, or when you're not able to be adaptive, it just makes you upset. Why are we changing this again? We just changed this last week. Well, I got to tell you, as a leader, sometimes we change things and we think they're going to be great, and then they really suck, and we've got to be able to change that practice again. So we've got to be able to be adaptable. It's not the fact that the organization is being adaptable that's making you upset. It's probably the fact that they're changing stuff without telling you they're changing stuff again. And if you're able to find new ways of dealing with changes, you're going to be able to be in the catbird seat. And you're able to find new ways of dealing with fast changing situations, and you could balance them, and you're able to deal with them as best that you can. And again, how do we develop our self-regulation? During moments of distress, don't panic. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Remember, we're going to feel the emotion. It's got to get to our frontal lobe so we're able to make sense of them. And if people are bugging you, let them know they're bugging you, man. Just kind of pull them aside and say, you know what? I really don't appreciate when you make fun of my haircut. I really don't appreciate if you make fun of my weight. Yeah, I'm gaining a little weight. I mean, I think we're all gaining a little weight in this time of pandemic. But, I don't want it brought up, man. And I would just appreciate if we could, not go there, Try to be upfront with them and just say, that's a behavior that I really don't want to have. Some additional self-regulation strategies: acting in accordance with your values. I mean, this is really important. And when you think about self-awareness, it really kind of gives you the opportunity to say who you are as a person, what you believe in, and living to those values are going to be very important. Be able to calm yourself when you're getting upset. Again, allow the signal to get to the frontal lobe and try to make sense of what you're feeling. But when you practice self-awareness, it's going to give you this ability, because it's important for you to know the why. And once you know the why, you're feeling the emotion. Okay, why am I feeling this way? Well, because, I spilled coffee on myself. Now my uniform is dirty. Now my clothes are, whatever it is. But once you make sense of it, you're able to understand it. Another big thing about developing self-regulation is to maintain open communication. I got to tell you, just recently I'm consulting with an organization, and one of their supervisors kind of had an outburst. I mean, just yelling and screaming, and got up in somebody's face, right? And when we talked to the employee, he kind of said, well, this person a few months ago did this and it really upset me. Well, they didn't talk to that person about it, and they allowed that to fester, and then the next trigger happened, and it was just an explosion. And just know that you have to be persistent through difficult times. Let's go ahead and put this in one sentence, right? Accept that there will always be sudden changes and challenges in your life. And just know that when this happens, there's always going to be a problem, and you're going to have to be able to deal with it. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Next, man, one of my favorite things is self-motivation. And I want to be able to take this as, an important component of emotional intelligence. But even outside of emotional intelligence, you've got to be able to define who you are, where you're going, and how you're going to get there. And this is really about your development to the next level. And the definition of self-motivation is being able to find the ability to do what needs to be done without the influence from other people or situations. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where you take the shoulds and you turn them into musts. I should lose weight. I should quit smoking. I should go back to college and get my degree. I should become, a paramedic or the next level of certification. It's not about the shoulds. It's about the musts. Because one of the things that happens is should gives you more frustration. Should brings you more anger. Should brings you more anxiety. Because you keep saying, I should do this, but nothing is happening. You've got to take those shoulds and you've got to turn them into musts. And there are 4 things that Daniel Goleman tells us about self-motivation. And Daniel Goleman is kind of the father of emotional intelligence, modern day emotional intelligence. He's got some really great stuff out there. It's really deep, but when you read it, you really kind of understand. But when it comes to motivation, personal drive to improve and achieve is something that you have to do. We have it inside ourselves that we need to get to a different level. It's called the hedonic treadmill, right? What makes us happy today is going to make us sad tomorrow. So it's our own personal drive that keeps us from wanting to improve. But just because we want to improve doesn't mean we're going to improve. We've got to be able to push ourselves to achieve. This gives us the commitment to achieving our goals. We all have goals that we want to attain. And one of the things that we need to do is reach those goals, because we keep saying it, right? I want to go to college. I've got a friend of mine who keeps saying, I want to go to college. I want to go to college. And every so often I remind her how long it's been that we've talked about it. And I got to tell you, it's now been 6 years since she first told me that she wanted to get her college degree. And I keep reminding her that it's been 6 years. Why? I don't want to hurt her feelings, but if she would have been able just to start, she probably would have been able to be completed by now. It also gives us the initiative or the readiness to act on opportunities. There's a saying that opportunity only knocks once. Well, you know what? I believe that we've got to create opportunities for our own success. We don't need to wait for opportunity to knock. We've got to go out and create the opportunities for us to be successful. But if the opportunity comes and you're not ready and it passes you by, that's a failure. We need to be able to put ourselves in a position that when opportunities come, we can jump on them if we think they're valuable to us, if we think they're going to help us to reach our goals, and we need to be able to take those opportunities. But a lot of times, we're not in the right place, and we don't have this, and, I don't have the schedule, and I've got to be able to, and because I've got to do this. You know what? We have to know that opportunity is going to come, and we're going to jump on the opportunity when it happens. And here's an important one. We've got to be optimistic, and we've got to be resilient. We've got to know that we're going to achieve our vision. We've got to know that we're going to be successful. We got to know that we're going to head in the right direction for us and our family so we can get to that next level. And when you have the ability to motivate yourself, you need to take that and you need to be able to motivate other people into action. I'm here today to give you a little bit about emotional intelligence. And this is a strong component right here, is self-motivation. But I want to be able to inspire you today. I want to be able to motivate you today because I'm that way. I'm inspired. I'm motivated. I can't wait to reach the next level of my goals. But I just don't want to teach you today. I want to inspire you to take action. That's the key component to motivation, is when I motivate myself, I need to inspire myself to take action. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to be able to think about your goal. I want you to be able to think about your next step. I want you to be able to think about where you're going in your career. And let me go ahead and give you some steps on how to do that. First, be definitive and specific about your goal. What do you want to attain? And what does it mean specifically? Define it specifically. Next, you need to set a new routine. One of the biggest challenges of people not reaching their goal isn't because they're not motivated or isn't because, they're procrastinating or whatever it is. It's because they don't have the habit of the new routine. Where is this going to sit in your day? You get up the same time every day. You take a shower. You probably dry the same spot on your body every single time first. And then, you get dressed, you eat breakfast, you go to work and you do your work, and then you go to lunch, and then you come home. And then at the end of the night, you come home and you watch. Where is this new routine going to fit in your day? You need to be able to make this a habit in your new routine. Next, establish a definitive date for the end of this journey. You need to be able to say, I want to achieve this by this date. Remember, a goal is a dream with a deadline. Now, that doesn't mean that if October 1st comes and you're not ready and you need to move it to November 1st, that you failed. You just need a little bit more time. Next, you need to create a step-by-step plan of how you're going to achieve this goal, right? So you want to be able to lose 10 pounds. You want to be able to go back to school to get your degree. You want to be able to get the next level of certification. How are you going to do it? And write out the step-by-step plan. Because just because you say, I want to do this with no plan, what does that mean? You just want to do it. And then all of a sudden, days turns to weeks, and weeks turns to months, and months turns to years. So develop that plan. The next two are going to be very important, ladies and gentlemen. We are wired to think in pictures, and we need to be able to have a vision statement. I want you to write out the goal. I want you to write out the routine. I want you to write out when you're going to achieve this goal. And next, I want you to read this statement twice out loud every day. You know that voice in your head that, is negative? And if I could find out where that guy lives, I'd probably do a drive-by. But they're not our friend, right? But that's coming from our subconscious mind. We need to be able to rewire our subconscious mind. And it may sound trivial and it may sound dumb, but if you read your vision statement and then you believe that you're going to achieve this goal, then you're going to achieve it. But there's a missing component here, ladies and gentlemen, and that is desire. Desire is the mother of motivation because that's where motivation is born. That is the fire. If you want to set a goal and you're not working towards that goal, it's because the desire you have to achieve that goal isn't burning strong enough. You didn't come this far just to be average. You didn't come this far just to come this far. We all have the ability to achieve what we want to achieve, but we're the ones that have to do it. All right. So right now I've covered, the self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation. And these are personal skills. These are things that you do for yourself. And the last two components of emotional intelligence, empathy and social skills, is really your development of your relationship management. And I think that that's really going to be, a great component of this. So when we think about self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation, this is how you make yourself stronger. This is how you make yourself more centered. This is how you really kind of control your ability to master your emotions. And when you could do that, you truly become a master of your emotions. And that takes us to empathy. Empathy is one of those skills that really is hard for people to utilize. We talk about all the time that we could teach people work skills, but we can't teach them how to feel about them. We can't teach them how to feel about other people. And when you have good empathy, this is the ability for you to understand other people's emotions. One of the things, and my lesson here was as an EMS leader, I would have people come to my office and they would say, I got problems with my schedule. I need more money because living paycheck to paycheck is so hard. And, my partner, I just want to stab him in the eye with a pencil. And, and all those other things that, we have to talk about, right? And what's funny, though, is that when I was a worker, I had problems with my partners. And I had problems with my paycheck. And I had problems with my schedule. And as a younger leader, people are coming into my office with the same problem. And I'm like, figure it out. I had to figure it out. But you know what? If I was able to go to somebody else and help me figure it out, how much easier would that have been? But it seems that we're making empathy really something that is obsolete because, we just use the term all the time. Just get over it, just deal with it. And we've got to be able to be there for your people. Ask yourself what they must be feeling. Just because you had the similar situation and you handled it well doesn't mean that the person who's telling you they have this problem is strong enough to do that. And you got to remember, mistakes, reflection equal wisdom. And if you have the wisdom to give to somebody, you really have to be able to give them that gift. So when we think about social skills, we really have to be able to pay attention to other people. And you know what? And I kind of put empathy here in social skills, right? Because being empathetic is really important to developing relationship. And no matter what you do as a member of the workforce or as a member of a leadership team, your work gets done through people. And being able to develop those relationships are crucial. And when you think about empathy, you've got to be able to take the time to understand the other person's position and kind of know what they're feeling. It's extremely important. And, this really means that you kind of have to change your approach to people. When we talk about challenging prejudices, when we talk about putting yourself in other people's shoes, especially nowadays in this political environment, people are separated based on their beliefs. And, we really start to get personal about them because they believe this. This is the type of person they are. But you know what? They have convictions just like you have convictions. They have beliefs just like you have beliefs. And we've got to be able to stop judging people and just accept them for who they are. And I got to tell you, if we think about all of these elements, all of these components of emotional intelligence, I got to think, man, developing empathy is going to be really hard for some people to do. But it's the second most critical component to getting into your emotional intelligence. You have your personal competencies. These are now your social competencies. And it's all about the other people, because our job is to get work done through other people. Our job is to be successful with relationship management. And when we think about our social awareness and our social skills now, it's how are we able to read the other people and their emotions? I mean, come on. I mean, we know people that when they're in a bad mood, we know it. They've got the look on their face or they've got the tone in their voice. And a lot of times it comes down to nonverbal clues again. It makes no difference what the face is doing. Don't look at the mouth, look at the eyes. The eyes won't lie. They're going to tell you exactly what's going on. Well, you look like you're having a bad day. You look like you're in a bad mood, right? We know this, we see this, and we've got to be able to help people if they want to be helped. Now, of course, if they're like, get away from me, we should get away from them, right? But if we think about developing empathy, here are a few tips. Practice listening. This is so important. I mean, just listening to people, you're going to be able to understand what they're feeling. I've been saying it for a long time. I mean, we've been told that we've got to listen to our workforce. You know what? Stop listening to what your workforce is saying. And instead, start listening to what your workforce is feeling. Start listening to what people are feeling, and you're going to understand their words. Pay attention to body language. Really important. Imagine yourself in the other people's shoes. I mean, again, I knew what it was like to live paycheck to paycheck. I knew what it was like not to have a good schedule. And yet, when people needed my help, I told them to figure it out. And the last one is, don't be judgmental. We are not in a position to judge people because we don't know what they've done to get to where they are. All right, relationship management. So we're getting up there in time. We still got a lot more. You guys are going to have to listen a lot faster than this. Okay, so when we think about relationship management, again, our job is to get our work done through other people, right? And it's about building your network. It's about building the people who are around you. We want to be able to ensure that we develop the skills necessary, that we're able to develop our network, we're able to develop resources, we're able to help people achieve their goals. And that's really where relationship management comes in. These are your social skills. And to be a natural leader, we've got to be able to bring those people into our circle or get into their circle and work successfully with them. Create a group that's engaged. I mean, how many times have you done work in a group and people are just making you crazy? Right? What's getting done? Nothing's getting done here. What's going on? Who's in charge? This is so boring. But create a group that's engaged. And you've got to be able to have the skill to do that. And think about it now. You're good at self-awareness. You're good at controlling your emotions. You have great self-motivation. Now you're able to motivate and engage other people. Mobilize and ready to execute tasks at hand. I got to tell you, just give me something to do, and I'm going to be all over it. I love the fact of being able to use my problem-solving skills, my critical thinking skills. And then comes the time for you to coach and mentor other people. When you start to develop relationships, you don't get picked as a mentor. People they gravitate to you. They're inspired by you. They're motivated by you. And now all of a sudden, they want to be like you. They want your guidance. And this is what relationship management is about. There are so many people that I have relationships with in the field that when I talk to them, not only do they, that I enjoy their company, but they always have a tidbit of information that they're giving me in just a regular conversation that I'm able to get value out of. You're supposed to be someone who could be persuasive. You're someone that needs to be motivating. You're someone that needs to create inspiration. I mean, that's why we're here. I mean, we're here to achieve the very best that we can. and relationship management, we really have to be able to think about who we are as people. And then, how we can grow the people that are around us. Sometimes disagreements are going to happen. Sometimes you got to be the voice of reason. I got to remember the first time I was the voice of reason, I was saying something to somebody that I wasn't even taking that advice myself. But now, if you're understanding self-regulation, if you're understanding self-awareness, you now become a true, arbitrator, a true resource to people that may be having disagreements. I got to tell you, a lot of times when we start to deal with disagreements, it's all about communication issues and being able to help people see that. And then what about your organization? Do we have an opportunity to make our organization great? We have to be able to do that individually. You know what? My boss is horrible. I mean, they just suck. And I just don't want to come to work anymore. And I just don't want to, I'm not motivated and inspired because they're not there for me. You know what? Screw that. Throw that out, right? Because just because someone is not giving you what you need does not mean that they need to dictate your professionalism. You've got to be able to be the one to say, I'm going to make my corner of this organization the best that it can be. Regardless of what your responsibilities are, you can do your responsibilities with professionalism. You can go ahead and inspire the people that are working next to you. You can go ahead and motivate the people that are across from you. And your little part of this organization works out well. Never let anybody dictate to you your professionalism, your vision, and your goal to get to the next level. And, so when you have good relationship management, you work well as a group, and you're able to participate, and people are going to want you to participate. All right, and finally, I got one more slide before summary. So finally, when you are secure and comfortable in who you are as a person and as a leader, you have to be able to make every opportunity or take every opportunity to do what is right for everyone. There are people who can't speak up for themselves because they're not strong with emotional intelligence, because they're not self-confident, because they have poor self-esteem. And sometimes you've got to be the one to say no. You've got to be the one to buck the conventional norms. You've got to be the one to say, let's look at something else. You've got to be the one to say, let's take a risk. It's these people that are truly the strength of the people you want around you. Just remember the definition of leadership. Leadership isn't a noun. Leadership is a verb. It's an action. It's what you do. And it's not a position. You don't need a position to be, you don't need a position to be a leader. And when people want you around to help influence them and inspire them, it's because of the strength of who you are. And the foundation of the strength of who you are is based in your self-awareness and your ability to manage your emotions and how you feel about other people and how motivated you are to achieve your goals and that you're able to grow people who are around you. And that's the strength of emotional intelligence. And ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, I just love this opportunity. This is so much information for an hour, right? And I've tried to just touch on some of these high points. And I think you can hear and feel my passion when it comes to learning these. But when it comes to emotional intelligence, make certain that you're able to have good assertive communication, be positive, be motivated, practice your empathy, and be approachable and social. Grow the people who are around you. Become a resource for somebody who's not able to be a resource for themselves. And watch how your life changes. So here are the skills, or here are the attributes of emotional intelligence. I'm not going to read them for you. I just love this slide because it looks like it was written with crayon. And I'm really excited about that. And here is my contact information. If you want to get in touch with me, go ahead and do so. My website's there. My email address is there. Also follow me on the Ultimate Leadership Podcast. I'm on the social media groups. And I will see you there.